Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph LaBella.
And I'm Ron Sen. And as always, the sports world has lots of gifts for us. First, we had tryouts a couple of weeks ago, and wonderful story. I always ask the girls before they try out to remember to leave an impression, whether it's for a sports team or a role in a school play or admission to a new school or someday a job. And 2 minutes before that, a little girl comes up to me and says, "Hi, my name is," and I'm really excited to be here. And I've coached for probably 20 years, and nobody in the sixth grade has ever done that. And anyway, so the girl actually did make it, which is good, but she definitely was able to leave an impression even before practice started, and that's really a key. Big news yesterday was that the Oregon women beat the U.S. women's national team in a preseason game. Oregon has a triple-double machine, Sabrina Ionescu, and they're going to be ranked 1 going into the season. I know UConn's going to always be strong, but Oregon is pretty dynamite this season.
You know what's funny about that? You know I always get 4 tickets to
Right.
a UConn game, and I usually get the first choice, and I usually pick if they're playing Notre Dame or Baylor. So I come in, and the person who has these season tickets gave it to 2 of his clients, the first choice.
Mm-hmm.
So one client picks Notre Dame and one client picks Baylor.
Okay.
So I said to myself, when I had the list there, my friend brings it in, he was close to this guy. He brings it in, and I look at it, he says, Ralph, he goes, they took the Notre Dame and Baylor game. So I go, wait a second, they're playing Oregon at home too, at UConn. So I looked down, and in February, so I scooped those 4 tickets. So I'm going to the Oregon UConn game. Probably they may be 1 and 2 at that time.
All right. So I was reading something, and it said, find something that you can change your mind about every day. And I was reading Dan Shaughnessy's article about Mookie Betts basically isn't that special. He didn't say that Mookie Betts was a bad player. He's just saying, well, maybe he's not so different than some other players that we've had before. And he makes a compelling argument that he's similar statistically to Fred Lynn and Nomar Garciaparra. Now, he doesn't really credit the difference in wins above replacement value. He doesn't talk so much about stolen bases. And he gives a passing reference to defense because Garciaparra was an average shortstop, not a great shortstop. So I think if they can get something for Mookie, they're going to do that. Whether signing him for 10 years and $35 or $40 million a year makes any sense at all, I'll defer to the fact that most of these big contracts haven't worked out for teams that have paid them.
I would give him 10 years at $350 million. I wouldn't go any higher, but he's the type of player. He can do everything well. He's not a Stanton. He's not an A-Rod. He's not that type of a player. Both of them were big-time hitters, but Mookie Betts does everything well. So you got to figure, what is he, 26?
I think he's 27.
Well, he's 27, so 10 years he'd be 28 then.
Right. I mean,
to 38.
The alternative argument is, especially in the postseason with a good sample size, he's struggled, and he prior to the MVP year, he wasn't anything special. He was a good player. Now, you might think of last year. Maybe last year he was a bit on an off season, but he still performed really in the top 5 among players in the American League. So it really depends on your philosophy. Are you willing to pay out big money or not? And obviously, since we met last, we really haven't talked about Bloom and what that's going to mean as director of baseball operations. Red Sox are going to cut payroll, try to go more of a development route, and we'll talk more about the Red Sox later, but there's certainly lots of opportunities to make changes. The U.S. women's national soccer team got authorization to be a class in their suit against the Olympic Committee for higher pay, or whatever the governing body for U.S. soccer is. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, they justifiably feel underpaid relative to the men, especially when they win a lot more than the men.
What about the women's pro basketball team? Some of them are making $50,000 a year.
Well,
You know.
the problem there is that the income generated by the WNBA is a lot lower than the NBA.
How does it compare in women's soccer to the men's soccer, even though the women's are better?
I think it's like 20 cents on the dollar. It's really
that they're getting, but
right.
how much are they bringing in compared to the men's?
I think the attendance is at least as high, if not higher. So, I mean, they have a big following.
So if that's the case, they should be getting what
I think it
that
should,
percentage.
I'd expect it to be a slam dunk. Now, in the not so good news category, Gordon Hayward broke his hand, his left hand yesterday playing against the Spurs. Hayward we talked about his importance to the team and how he went would probably dictate how the Celtics have gone, and they're off to a 7-1 start. Hayward's been really outstanding, averaging over 20 points and 7 rebounds a game, and really attacking the basket. So he's back to what he previously did. So obviously this is a big setback for the team.
Yeah, I was sick when I saw that. I mean, you know, we're both big Celtic fans, and you know, you're watching every game and you're seeing how the team's coming together. Even when Brown was out, they were winning. Now Brown back, and you could just see that they can compete against anybody. And then this happens. I mean, they're still going to be good because you still have Walker, Brown.
Who do you think is going to get a good portion of Hayward's minutes?
I think Green.
That's exactly.
I'm hoping he gets it.
Exactly what I thought. Green he's playing on a pogo stick, and he brings a lot of energy. He's not a great outside shooter, but there's enough other guys who are willing to shoot outside shots. I don't think it's a big deal.
You know, the more he plays, the better he's going to be. But don't forget, Cantor hasn't played. He hasn't played the last 7 games with an injury.
Right.
Cantor's their best rebounder, their best low post player. Tice has been playing really good with Williams coming in and having a great game last night against San Antonio. So, I mean, a lot of it's there. You could see, if they work with Williams, we were talking about it earlier, on working from 12 feet out on offense, taking the ball to the hoop, pull up jump shots with those legs. I mean, this guy in a couple of years could be tremendous.
The buzzword in the NBA right now is load management. And Doc Rivers got a $50,000 fine for acknowledging that he held out Kawhi Leonard. Leonard has some chronic knee tendonitis issues, and the Clippers are not going to sell out to try to sell out figuratively or literally to try to have the best regular season record. It doesn't make any sense to do that. And the NBA gets upset when there's national games on and the star players aren't in the game.
Oh, Milwaukee and the Clippers, and he's not playing? I mean, that's ridiculous.
Right, so it's a problem. How exactly do you try to correct that? Simple, you just say the player's got lower body injury or whatever it is, migraine headache, they couldn't play that day. And
but I don't blame the NBA for that. You got a primetime game, you got the Clippers and Milwaukee, 2 teams that may meet in the finals.
Well, you'd think they'd probably say, look, you're playing Sacramento, who's struggling 2 days before, hold them out that game if you have to do that. Although nobody wants to acknowledge that they even do those sort of things. Now, in the what possibly bad could come of this, apparently Dion Waiters of the Heat had some marijuana-laced edibles and had a severe panic attack and had to go to the hospital. So the NBA had apparently been talking about dropping a ban on marijuana. It seems like the NBA drug testing policies are pretty loose anyway. You don't hear about too many players getting caught, but in any event, they may have to rethink that now about Waiters after Waiters' public problem.
Did he know he was taking it?
Yeah, no, he knew what he was doing. And, I mean, you'd think that probably he'd had. I mean,
They shouldn't drop that. They should keep it. Marijuana is a drug.
Well,
I don't care what the rest of the country thinks. They should keep that, and they should suspend them if they're on it.
It's always, to me, it's a negotiation issue between the NBA and the players' union, and it all comes out in the wash. Now, yesterday, I love Popovich. I know you have questions about Popovich, but he said, I was really excited to play the Celtics, but my team didn't seem to be quite as excited as I am.
That was something. They just totally demolished them.
Right, and the Spurs are I mean, they don't have what they had before. I mean, losing, Leonard from before and Tim Duncan and Ginobili, but they're still a good team, and they just crushed them yesterday.
How about Brown after the game? They asked him about playing for Popovich. He goes, it was a great experience, him and Kerr and the other coaches.
Right. They played with Kerr, Popovich, Jay Wright from Villanova. So maybe they got some insights, and Popovich said he really enjoyed coaching those guys. He said they always worked hard and were really enthusiastic to learn. So, I mean, that's what you want to hear. People pursuing their craft to be as good as they could be. I mean, obviously Brown's got paid, Walker's got paid, Smart's been paid, Tatum will get paid.
Tatum's going to get paid big time next year.
Yeah, I mean, Tatum's playing a lot better. He's given up those 18-footers and taking it to the basket now. We're going to jump around a little bit. There's some interesting players on the block this winter. Garrett Cole's probably the best pitcher, and there's a lot of talk that he'll go to the Yankees.
I hope they get him. That's what they need. If they get Cole, but still, they don't have any winners on that team. That's the problem. LeMahieu, maybe Torres is coming, but right now, I mean, a big Judge fan, but he's not a winner. He's not a winner, and you got Sanchez, who's a disgrace. You got Stanton, who's a disgrace, and they're getting big money, especially Stanton.
Yeah, Stanton has 8 more years left at $240 million. So you sort of say, like,
they're not paying
wow.
his full salary.
No.
Miami's paying $6 million, I think.
All right. Well, anyway, still got a lot of money in a
but
long
it's
term.
ridiculous. They're not winners. You can see 3 years in a row.
The Patriots. The Red Sox moved Dustin Pedroia off the 60-day DL onto the 40-man roster. I don't know what that did. I guess
How many more years does he have?
He's got 2 more years. So
At $14 million?
I think it's around that, 13, 14. They're still paying Rusney Castillo. I think he's around 13 or 14.
Is he still in the minors?
He's in the minors. He's had a wonderful minor league career. If they bring him up to the majors, then his salary counts against their salary cap, even though somehow it doesn't count, even though when he's in the minors. And then I think Pablo Sandoval comes off the books this year. So I mean, it's
unbelievable.
It really is incredible. I don't know if you saw the story about the Woburn Class C cheerleader story.
No.
All right, so the Woburn Pop Warner cheerleaders, who range in age from 9 to 13, were competing in a regional competition, and they were in 3rd place, and they qualified by finishing 3rd to go to the Nationals at Disney World. So they announced that after the meet. All the kids are excited. The next day they tell them, oh no, you didn't qualify. So apparently the team went to the National Pop Warner organization and probably said, this is going to look really bad. You tell us, these are little girls, you tell us that we're going to the Nationals, and then you pull a rug out from under us.
Would only the top 2 teams go?
No, I think they must have done a miscalculation, so maybe they ended up 4th instead of 3rd.
They should have sent all 4.
Well, right. So now that the organization is going to allow all 4 teams. Well, in any event, my guess is that the people of Woburn have to foot the bill anyway, so they're going to do fundraising, I imagine. But it's kind of a nice story for these little kids to have a chance to compete. And cheerleading, I mean, it's a sport. If you see the way those kids fly around and get injuries at a significant rate, they deserve a lot of credit for what goes into it.
And a lot of teams are going. A team from Haver's going, a team from Saugus is going.
So there was a lot of good college football on yesterday. Minnesota, who's been ranked variously from 13th to 17th, upset Penn State. Their quarterback, Morgan, was phenomenal yesterday, putting the ball into small windows, and they had one receiver, Bateman, who had over 200 yards, caught all 7 balls thrown to him, and big enthusiastic crowd there. Obviously, Penn State's chances of going to the playoffs are probably over. Now,
they have Ohio State, though, Penn State.
Right. And the other big game yesterday, the big game of the season maybe, was LSU at Alabama. Tua Tagliavola was coming off of an ankle injury, and he struggled in the first half, but mostly it was poor execution and mistakes that cost Alabama. They were behind by 20 at the half. 33-13. No ordinary Joe Burrow, for the Louisiana State quarterback, was also phenomenal. He was 18 for 20 for 255 and 3 touchdowns in the first half, I think. He looks really good. I mean, in fact, the announcers were saying he looks a lot like Brady as far as his overall ability. And they have some running back who's a bowling ball who's also
Now, at
really
any other
good player.
division of Alabama, will Alabama maybe meet them in the
Yeah,
playoffs?
I think they're in the other
So
conference
there's a chance
of the
Alabama
SEC.
may meet them and get back into the top 4.
Right. So right now you have Ohio State ranked first, LSU second. Alabama will probably drop from third to a little bit lower. Clemson beat nobody, but will move up to third probably. And then who knows whether it'll be Oregon or maybe Alabama in fourth. But so there's still a lot of football to be played.
Yeah.
But interesting rankings. Alabama they look like the inferior team. LSU had better lines. They just executed a lot better than Alabama. Alabama couldn't cover. The defensive backs, without enough pass rush, they just really couldn't cover the LSU receivers.
Well, you knew that going into the game. They said that Alabama's defense wasn't going to be able to play with LSU's offense. That's what happened.
Now, my son lives in Georgia, and he's a big Georgia fan, and his comment was the Bulldogs would have their hands full with either of those teams. So he was kind of feeling that they were both superior than they were. But overall, the college football season's been pretty exciting. BC didn't happen for them. I think
That happens all the time to them, right? They're playing Florida State, big program that's not good, and they can't. What did they score, 37 against them?
I think it was 38-31, something like that. Really, I mean,
A big game. I mean, who do they play next? They have only one more game left?
I'm not even sure.
They got to win that to qualify.
And then my alma mater, I can't believe it, Harvard lost to Columbia in overtime. Since when has Harvard lost to Columbia football in like 50 years? Unbelievable. So Tim Murphy, the Harvard coach, is one win behind the legendary Carmen Koza, the Yale coach. If you said to me that he was that close, I wouldn't have known. I would have guessed that Joe Restick had the most wins in Harvard football coaching.
I told you I was at that tie game with Yale, right?
Right.
Was it 28-28, something like that?
28? I think it was 29-29.
29-29.
I think that was 1968.
And they had, that the year they had Calvin Hill?
Did they
Not
have
Yeah.
I
Yale
don't
had
know.
him.
All right. Well, I'm sure you're all thrilled by this Ivy League football talk. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We have a lot to talk about regarding high school sports. First, the older brother of one of the players I coach had a unique achievement. Sean Kay, who goes to Arlington Catholic as a senior and won the Division V Eastern Mass cross-country title. And it looked like his time was the second best in Eastern Mass. So he's quite a runner and a student athlete who's going to be going to an Ivy League school. I won't mention which one because I'm not sure if it's publicly released yet. So good news there. Second, the Melrose girls cross-country team finished second in Division IV, which was the high water mark for that team's performance through the year. So congratulations to girls cross-country.
That's very good.
Now, but we really want to talk a lot about Melrose football. It's having another banner season, and they'll be playing in the Division IV North finals this week at Melrose against a powerful Revere team, so that really should be a great game. You've just seen the highlights of Marblehead, excellent football game, and we'll talk a little bit about the reasons behind Melrose's sustained success.
Well, they run the ball good. Their lines are really strong. I mean, basically for the last 10 years, it's just about the same. I mean, this could be the most talented team they've ever had. They got some top-notch players, quarterbacks very good, running backs, the line, but Revere's going to be tough run.
Well, and if you look at the history, Mike Pedrini, who's a junior at Tufts, one of the captains, when he graduated, there was talk like, well, maybe the program's going to take a step back when they lose such a star player, but obviously they won the Super Bowl.
Well, then Seat comes along.
Right, so they've had a lot of talented players, and that's the number one point about any sustained program is you need to have good players. But it's not only having good players, they have excellent coaching. I was really impressed by the game plan and the offensive balance. They had over 150 yards passing. They had outstanding pass blocking, not only by the line, but I noticed that the running backs also did a really good job protecting Brendan Fennell. And so the team didn't luck out and get into this position. They're one of the strongest teams Melrose has had.
Well, Revere gave up a lot of points too in their game. Was it like
Right.
42-35?
Right. Who they Wayland, I
Wayland.
think?
So they gave up a lot of points. So Melrose offense, hopefully Melrose will move the ball. Their defense is very good. So I know Revere has a very good run and attack. But looking forward, they're playing at Melrose.
Right. So if you look at why any team is really successful, it's going to at first boil down to the fundamentals. And Melrose does the key things you need to do, the blocking and tackling, really well. And they've done that every year. Second, avoid bad football. Now, what's bad football? Bad football are turnovers, bad field position, and especially like what partially killed the Patriots last week, stupid penalties. So you don't see Melrose take a lot of dumb penalties. It's really rare. And it's interesting that this is the first year that they've gone to NCAA rules, or is it?
Oh, 12 minutes?
National football, right,
Yeah.
with the 12-minute quarters. And Melrose has done exceptionally well. I know the players are really extremely well conditioned, and they've had that weight room for
That's
a
what's
long
done it.
time.
That's
Yeah,
the key to weight room. Every year they're a different player. You look at them like Cusalito. Well, that was from his freshman year when he was just one of the top players as a freshman playing cornerback, and now look at him. His whole body's changed.
Right. I mean, I think it's changed, from when we grew up, weights were just not really a thing. Whereas now, anybody who's a serious athlete, whether you're a boy or a girl, in high school, you have to be doing personal training, weight training, and strength training.
Well, I've heard from a number of people saying that they have the best off-season program in the league. Burlington comes second over the years.
Well, and they have a lot of good players. We've talked Now, Teddy Roosevelt had a saying, comparison is the thief of joy. So every time we mention somebody, we're not mentioning somebody else, and I totally get that. There's 56 players on the roster, and all of them have a role in a team's success. The kid who's the backup linebacker who's putting in a good effort every day, blocking, tackling, covering receivers, makes the starter better. So those players never get the credit they fully deserve, but they still have an important role. But Billy Pesci, he's a good running back. He made a really key play on the, I think it was a fake punt that Marblehead tried to execute. So it's just so many good plays. Herbert's had a long pass reception, great play. Matt Hickey did a lot of great blocking. And to not mention the Dunton twins, or brothers, obviously I've heard rumors that they're being recruited by a local college team. And I don't know if it's true or not. The word is that Tufts is looking at them. Tufts has seemed to like Melrose players. Padrini's there, Jay Tyler's there. So
well, look at the program over the years. I mean, the players that are coming out. I mean, you go back 10 years, it's been on one of the top programs in the state. I mean, Morris does an unbelievable job with that program.
I mean, they've won the Super Bowl and been 2 other times, and they have an excellent shot. We'll see. I'm sure Revere is a very deserving opponent.
So now, if they beat Revere, they go.
Right.
Because now, what happens with the other? Remember last year, 2 years ago, they had to win 2 games. Another game because they had 3 teams were involved in going to the Super Bowl. So they had to play a team from another section of the state.
I'm pretty sure that
Did that end?
Yeah, I think so. So the one caveat in watching the game films, Melrose had a little bit of trouble defending draws and delays. And I'm sure that's, especially if you have a good pass rush or even run blitzing, you may get caught out of position sometimes. So I'm sure the coaching staff will work on that and clean that up.
Plus, Marblehead's an excellent program, too.
Yeah,
they're very good.
Right. Now, it was probably a good thing to be home. I've heard that Melrose fans haven't fared really well in Marblehead. I've heard that people in the community in Marblehead take great pride in living in Marblehead. Unlike shantytown like Melrose.
I remember going to Marblehead when I was coaching Pop Warner and playing there.
So anyway, everybody should be proud of their communities, and we're happy that Melrose has had such an outstanding program through the years. Now the volleyball team had another excellent season. They won the Freedom Division, and if you wonder about the quality of the Melrose volleyball program, they've won a league title 15 of the last 17 years. They've won 8 sectional titles and a state championship. They produced numerous all-state players. This year is no exception. They ended up 19-4. They had a very big win out at Westboro. They beat Frontier, one of the top teams in Division III. They just ran into a buzzsaw when they faced Linfield in the sectional semifinals. Linfield was very good. Linfield made the plays they needed to play, and Melrose struggled to step up when they needed to. So it's, that happens. You're not going to win every year, and they'll bounce back.
It's funny how it goes, though. When Linfield loses 3-0 to Danvers.
Right. So Danvers had, we could tell a few years ago we saw Danvers play over, Melrose play Danvers over at Danvers, the old high school. Danvers has a beautiful new facility. It's also practically a skiff facility, as there was 0 phone service in the gym, which was pretty annoying. But Danvers got an outstanding program, and we'll see. The word is that Minnechaug from the west is the strongest team. We'll find out. Duxbury had a lost in
3-2.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Then there were some great individual achievements this year. Melrose had a lot of great attackers through the years, and Emma Randolph set the all-time record for kills. She eclipsed Hannah Brickley's previous record of 894. And Hannah,
Is that over the career?
over a career, Emma finished with 913, which is quite an achievement. Now, things have changed through the years. Volleyball scoring changed from 2 sets with 30 points to best of 5 with 25 to win. And of course, the more dominant you are, then you only play 3 sets and you're out.
Yeah, but you're playing more points now than you
yeah.
did back. When
Right.
Hannah played, was it 30 or was it 25?
It was 25.
It was 25?
Yeah, but
When your daughters played, it was 30.
30. But Hannah also, their teams were more dominant, so they didn't play a lot of these 3-2, 3-1 games.
No.
It was 3-0 most of the time. So Emma had a wonderful career, and I don't know what her intentions are about playing college.
Plus, she's the first person from Melrose to hit from the back row, too, right? The game I saw,
Well,
she was hitting some from the back row.
There have been some players.
Because Kelly never did that before.
No, there've been some. Nicole Abbott hit some from the back row. Athena Ziavras used to hit occasionally from
Did
the
she?
back row. I think Hannah did some, but
He's had some great players, huh?
right, they've had a lot. But so shout out to Emma, who was the Middlesex League co-player of the year. I'm not sure, probably one of the Joyce sisters from Burlington was the other in the Freedom. And Melrose had 4 other All-Stars, Mary Kate Mahoney, Nicole Abbott, Erin Torpy, of course, and Emily Hudson. And you could have made an argument for Eva Haralabatos, who finished the regular season anyway. She was number 5 in assists in the state. So, but there's only so many from each team that can be all-stars. So one would expect that they will still be a powerhouse next year, because they had, the younger players who were getting a lot of rotations, Chloe Gentili, Autumn Whalen, and Elena Sukos all had big roles in the rotation and all performed really well in the postseason. So they'll bring that postseason with them. Chloe and Elena both play on the EVO national team, so they're getting tons of experience, and I'm sure that there's going to be some younger players stepping up. What Coach Shelley makes abundantly clear to the players every year is no matter what your role was this year, you start over at 0 next year, and you can be beaten out. For example, Eva was a JV player, never played a second of varsity volleyball before this season, and as I said, she was number 5 in the state in assists.
What year is she in?
She'll be a senior next year. Other things that were noteworthy this year is the Middlesex League had a tremendous rise in talent overall. Winchester was the Division I North champion, and they'll be continuing on. Winchester's really become the most dominant team in the Middlesex League. They did it the right way. They went out and got college coaches to come and help build their program. They have a lot of off-season players, and Coach Freeman's done a really great job with that team. But overall, the Middlesex League was 38-12 against non-league opponents during the regular season, and look forward for continued growth. And the more games that you play against good teams, the better chance you have to succeed in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, Woburn this year was good. Reading was pretty good. Burlington was good. Melrose. So it was better than it was years ago, Ron.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And another part of their success is, as I said before, the players that you don't see on the court as much during the games are getting heavy minutes every day scrimmaging in practice. There's no question in my mind that the sort of 7 to 12 players of this era are more talented and more experienced than the 7 to 12 players from the early to mid 2000s. And overall, a lot of aspects of play have improved. I mean, the top players are still the top players. I think that the really strong players from any era, your daughter as a setter would be even better now, because a lot of times the passing is better.
Yeah, back.
back then I thought the goal was to hit it up in the air and let the setter chase around for it, as opposed to give it to her where she could make plays.
But one thing you got to say, though, every year the kids have a great time playing on that volleyball team. It's a lot of fun. I mean, they're always successful. And it's tough winning the whole thing. I mean, it's just tough. You know, volleyball,
Right.
the momentum changes. It's so easy.
Well, we'll switch gears and go back to professional sports. We'll start with the Celtics. As we said, they're off to a 7-1 start. They have about a 10-point-a-game margin of victory over their opposition. And not only are the big names, Kemba Walker, Tatum, and Brown producing, they're getting it from lesser-known players, especially Daniel Tice, who's been filling in for Cantor.
He's been playing great defensively. He's been playing unbelievable.
Yeah,
How many blocked shots does
He's
he
got
have?
something like an 11% block rate.
It's unreal.
Right.
His
He's
timing has been unreal.
and he's
And then Williams.
and Williams was in yesterday. Another guy. What did I think?
6 blocks, 5 for 5.
He had 6 blocks, and he looks. I think Scalabrini was saying, it looks like he's playing on a trampoline.
But I've never seen a guy like him. His head's up at the rim every time he stuffs the ball.
Yeah.
His legs. If they work on, they should next summer when he's off, should be working on from 12 feet in. Just pull up jump shots coming off the dribble. No one would be able to stop him.
And another fill-in player yesterday was Brad Wanamaker, who was very good.
He's been playing steady. He's physical. He's steady and green.
And he can finish with both hands around
Yeah.
the rim, and he's tough.
But the key is, give me the top 3 reasons why you'd see Brown, Tatum, and Haywood, why they're playing more free this year.
Well,
What are your top 3 reasons?
Well, number one, you have less usage rate with Kyrie Irving gone, because Kyrie had to have the ball all the time. Kemba Walker previously had a higher usage rate, but he seems not to need the ball as much right now. And the second reason is Horford's another guy who had the ball a lot. There's only one ball, so now Brown and Tatum have more freedom. And they're taking the ball to the basket, which was the Celtics were right at the bottom of the league last year in free throw attempts, and now they're going to the hoop. It makes all the difference.
Well, my number three is that they're more experienced. What happened last year, the experience they had last year, they're going to come out and play better. My number 2 is Kyrie, him gone. His attitude stunk. They didn't like playing with him. Hayward couldn't stand him. Kyrie being around him. You knew that. My number 1 is, I'm glad you brought it up, Horford. Horford gone has opened up the whole floor for Tatum, Hayward, and Brown. Horford, that Horford-Kyrie connection, people don't talk about that much. That connection killed those players because it was always Horford in the high post, running Kyrie off picks and pick and rolls. Horford taking a lot of three-point shots, handling the ball way too much in the offensive end, and it discert. With him gone, that's the number 1 reason you're seeing Tatum and Brown and Hayward.
When you're seeing, especially with the reserves in, you're seeing a lot better ball movement because people really seem into making the acrobatic play.
But no, I blame too. Besides,
I know you blame the coach.
I don't blame Horford for what he was doing. I blame the coach for setting up that offense by having half the game, Tatum in one corner, Brown in another corner, Hayward stuck in the corner watching them run their pick and rolls through maybe 15 seconds of the offense. Now it's a lot more smooth, the offense running. And besides, you got Cantor, who's been out the last 6 games. He's a better rebounder than Horford.
Right.
He's going to be on the offensive boards. So it's all going to complement each other.
Well, we'll see how it goes with Hayward.
But Hayward being out is going to kill him.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, what can you say about the Patriots and Sunday Night Football? Did the Ravens have the blueprint to beat the unbeatable Patriots, or was it just a one-time thing where they didn't show up?
Hey, I told you over the years, you have certain losses that make you a better team. Like last year, I said that Miami loss and the Pittsburgh loss, they're going to work on things. It's the best thing that could have happened to them. And this year, that was the best thing that could happen to them is that loss. They could have won that game.
Well, you have people talking stupid about undefeated season and everything else, and they didn't show up, and they made critical mistakes. Edelman's not a big fumbler ordinarily. That was a tough, fumble turned into a touchdown.
How about the offside when they were going to kick the field goal to start the game?
Oh, yeah.
And the other penalties. That game could have turned. It was turning, really. And then White's running in for a touchdown. He steps on his lineman's foot and goes down. So now they have to kick a field goal at the end of the first half instead of tying the game up.
Right. So
they would have been in control of the game.
It gets down to, as we talked about before, you got to run the football some. You got to stop the run, and they couldn't. They made Mark Ingram look like he was an all-pro
early in the game.
And you have to eliminate bad football, and there was way too much bad football in that game. And
but you don't feel good after that game with the future this year?
I just think it's a one-time thing. I don't think people are pushing the panic button. They're talking about
they were doing that last year too.
Greg Bedard is saying the Patriots have to put up the Gronkowski bat signal over Foxborough. Gronk is not coming back.
They don't need Gronk.
Well, he's not coming back.
And they don't need him either. Everybody's worried. They're going to get better and better as they're playing the tough schedule, which is going to make them better.
Right. And
tougher team.
The number one
injuries is the key.
Right. The number one issue for them is the offensive line is a shell of what it used to be. Now they should get Wynn back for the left tackle. Newhouse is a turnstile there. Karras is not as athletic as Andrews, so he can't get out and get to the second level and block. And then Mason must be hurt because he's not playing well.
Wynn right now could be the best left tackle in football. You watch that guy play. When he comes back in 2 weeks, that's going to be a big uplift. He's a tremendous left tackle, Wynn. Not only just pretty good, he's very good. He could be the best left tackle they've ever had if he stays healthy.
Well, that's saying a lot because they've had some pretty good.
You see the way he moves his feet, how strong he is to the ground?
They've had Matt Light, they've had Bruce Armstrong,
Solder.
They've had Leon Gray. So they've had some strong players through the years. Now, the fill-in folk it wasn't an issue. Wasn't really a giant issue as far as kicking last game. I don't know what that's going to be.
He kicked pretty good. The ball was taken off.
At least it went straight.
And it was taken off. It was.
And then it's hard for me to believe that Lamar Jackson is going to have a long career in the NFL. Right now he's young, he's spry, he's quick.
He's going to get hurt one of these times.
Right. If you run all the time like that, eventually you get caught vulnerable.
But he didn't do anything in the second half, really.
Well, they contained him somewhat, and I'm sure that if they were playing them again, they'd be strategizing to take him away in a more effective way than they did last time.
And you know what else they have to do? They got to make Burkett their number one running back, although he gets hurt a lot. You see the way he hits the hole compared to
I know,
the
but
other
he
guys?
Can't stay healthy.
That's the key. If he can stay healthy, he really hits that hole.
Have you heard anything about Damian Harris?
I don't know what's going on with him. He was really good at Alabama.
The guy who looked really good at Alabama yesterday was Najee Harris.
Yeah.
He can catch the ball. He can run. He's tough. Well, they're never going to get him. So.
I still think Harris is going to get his break one of these games, and he's going to show his talents.
Well, he's had so few carries this year to really make any judgment on. But, he's had a high yards per carry, but, again, the numbers are not significant. The Ravens have sort of had their number in the past, too.
It was one of those games, It's one of those games. I'm not upset about the game. I'm more confident that they're going to win the Super Bowl after that game. If you just look at, because, again, the Pittsburgh game last year, they made 14 penalties in that game against Pittsburgh. They played terrible. This game here, they made too many mistakes.
Well, the team that's probably in trouble is the Colts because they have Hoyer starting now, and we've all seen what that is.
Yeah, but who are they playing, though? They'll win today.
Doesn't really matter.
They'll win today.
What expatriate is still undefeated?
I know.
So,
but he hasn't had a great season. He's had a steady season.
No, he's been a game manager, which is, hey, that's all you need to do. It's about winning, and the 49ers have a really strong defense. And obviously we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. So,
but the Patriots have some great games left over on great games. You're going to be looking forward to every game now for the next 4 or 5 games.
Well, I think that there's still a lot of football to be played. We'll see how it goes. You know, when they get Wynn back and when they get presumably Harry back, that'll add something to the team.
Here's the way it's going to go. Philly's been playing good lately. They're going to go into Philly and they're going to beat them convincingly. And then everybody's going to be back, and then they're going to take off from that game.
Well, I hope so. The Bruins, like the Patriots, are in first place. The Bruins unfortunately, are on a 2-game losing streak right now after they lost at Montreal and at Detroit in somewhat uninspiring fashion. I was checking out Tuukka Rask's statistics, and he's 3rd in the league in save percentage and 3rd in the league against goals against, although he looked pretty much like a sieve against the Canadians.
Oh, that 5th goal. I'm not going to go so far as to say I would have made that save, but how doesn't he make that save? It's on his glove side. It's not a hard shot, and he tries to catch it in here.
It was an atrocity. We'll acknowledge what it was.
Maybe he lost his confidence giving up the first 4 goals.
Well, anyway, so David Pasternak is leading the league in goals with 15 and points with 30. And I didn't even realize that Marchand is in 3rd place in scoring.
He's right behind him.
He's got 10 goals and 18 assists and 28 points. So Marchand is having a great season too. It was now. I don't know if we talked a little bit about the hit that Backus was involved in before, and after that happened, I can't even remember which team that was against. It wasn't Carolina, but all the usual nonsense that happens, snow in the goalie's face washes and late hits and everything else went away for about a period. So when there was a really serious injury, all the chippy nonsense disappeared.
How about the fans? You couldn't even hear them the first 2 minutes after that.
Oh, I know. I mean, when people get certain types of hits, there's a artery on the side of your head that can rupture, and literally you can die. That's how boxers ordinarily die, when they get punched in I think it's the middle meningeal artery. But it's pretty scary to see a person lose consciousness during a professional
and he was standing up when he lost right when he got hit.
Yeah. So he went.
He was the one making the hit too.
Yeah. I mean, he went to the ground totally out. Now, finishing up with the Red Sox, obviously we know they're going to cut payroll. We don't know. I mean, that we probably don't have the Dodgers to take David Price off our hands, like the old Carl Crawford deal. But if they could get rid of Price or Eovaldi and get prospects, then they'd probably still have to take some of the contract back. But
you talk about a lot of ifs. I mean, they got to make certain moves, but there's so many ifs on that team. I mean, if things turn out really good, I mean, they could battle for a championship again. But if Seal's healthy, if Price is healthy, Eovaldi, all 3 of those guys have to be healthy.
Well, Vasquez is probably not going to have as productive offensive season as he had last year, and they need a backup catcher. The first base situation between Moreland and Pierce, who didn't even play hardly, they're both gone. There's a lot of talk that Bobby Dahlbeck is going to get first shot at that. Second base is wide open. They'll probably try to get rid of Holt's money. They're anticipating he'll be in the $7 to $8 million range. And now whether Chavis is healthy or not, whether they see him as a second baseman, they're very right-handed right now.
What about him at first?
Well, I think they want to put Dahlbeck there because it's a better position for him.
Well, Martinez staying was big for them, too.
Right. Martinez is staying. And the reason Martinez stayed, it was simply because he's seen across the league as a DH, and people don't want to pay that much money for a DH anymore.
What's he getting, 23, 24?
I think it's going to be 23 and a half,
and then the
maybe.
next 2 years, 19?
Yeah, it's around 20. But
he can play out his option every year, right?
Again, he's got to, but chances are they're going to be paying less. I mean, teams are trying to conserve money where they can. And then on the left side of the infield, Bogarts is signed long-term. Devers, they're not going to pay him any money early because they don't have to. The guy who was kind of disappointing last year, Benintendi, wasn't good.
No, he had a bad year. Well,
know.
Betts didn't have a great year either.
No, I mean, Betts wasn't the same guy he was. He still was productive, and every year you get what you expect from Bradley. He's kind of he might be able to hit 20 homers and hit 230 and give you defense, but I mean, he's not a 270 hitter.
I mean, look what the Yankees did last year, bringing in those players.
They did
LeMahieu,
great. Right,
unbelievable.
their younger players,
Urshela.
like Torres, were outstanding.
Tauchman.
Yeah, they had a bunch. Voit. I mean, they had a lot of, quote, lesser-known guys who had big season, and they're going to be dropping payroll. I mean, Sabathia is coming off the payroll. You know, they'll have Severino back, so he'll give them a productive year. And who's the other guy? Who's their big guy last year that was out on suspension?
Jackson? Oh no, Herman.
Herman, yeah. So, you know, presumably.
If they get Cole, they're going to be tough. That could be a heck of a pitching staff.
No, I mean, Cole's an outstanding pitcher, and the Yankees are moving in the right direction. We don't know what direction the Red Sox are moving in. And, you know, we know they're trying to save money. I mean, God knows they must be really struggling with only having the money from Nesson and Liverpool and everything else, Fenway Sports Group with the racing. And, you know, I don't think we have to worry about John Henry sleeping on grates or anything.
I'll tell you though, the one move though that the Yankees, one bad move they made and the Red Sox got lucky. They should have signed Martinez and not Stanton. They should have signed, if they signed Martinez, they'd be in unbelievable shape right now.
Well, and they had bad luck in that Ellsbury's basically played nothing for 2 years.
But Stanton's a joke. Before the series started, I said, this is the two moves I would make if I was Boone. I'd sit down Sanchez. He wouldn't play in the playoffs. Maybe pinch hit him. And I'd sit down Stanton. But Tauchman got hurt.
What kind of contract does Sanchez have? Would he be movable for something else?
I think he signed one like about $12 million at one time. I don't think he's really. That's where he is around.
He just
there.
strikes out so much.
But he's not good in the big games. He's a choke artist. They have too many of them. Stanton's a choke artist. He's a choke artist, and
Judge. I know.
And Judge is not a winner. He's a real good defense player, but you can't count him to come up with the big hit. You know, I mean, how many players can you? Luckily, they got LeMahieu. Torres is going to be a big hitter. Don't forget, Andujar is going to be back next year. He was a Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. He was out all year this year.
We'll shift gears in our final moments here. As a coach, you've coached a lot of basketball through the years. Confidence is so important, especially with younger players. No matter what you say to a player, you can say, I believe in you, but it doesn't necessarily make them believe in themselves. What do you think is the most important thing in helping a player build confidence?
Well, number one, they got to feel good about their talents. You know, you saw me preach confidence all the time with our players. You got to be confident so you can go out and anticipate and to be totally locked in the game. If you're not confident, you're going to be worrying about certain things. Oh, when I get the ball, what am I going to do? You got to have. And that takes a lot of work. I would say, you know, I'm big into drilling. Get really good handling the ball, good running. You know, that's what we did today when we had practice today with the high school team. And we talked about confidence. We talked about being comfortable with the ball in your hand, being comfortable passing the ball, understanding. You know how I am. The number one reason why Larry Bird's one of the greatest players to ever play, he anticipated probably better than any player to ever played any sport. His anticipation was unbelievable. And that's what I talk about. But you've got to feel comfortable with your talent level, and then you just got to keep preaching it. Just go out. But you know, another thing too, Ron, is they have to go through mistakes. If they're not making mistakes, especially in off season, they're not working hard enough.
I think it's really important for players to understand what their role is going to be. I'm not saying that if you're a 7th or 8th player that you have to accept that you're only going to be a 7th or 8th player. No, you work really hard and try to improve your situation. My expression is do more to become more to do more. So if you build up your skills and make the players around you better, that's really the key. The best players are the players who make those around them better at both ends. One of the reasons they make such a big deal about Horford. Now, I wonder how Horford is going to do going forward because he's getting kind of old now. So, I mean, he's got enough skill that he's going to have outstanding games. We'll see how it goes longer term for the Sixers.
But you talk about confidence, Ron, just look at the Celtics last year and look at them this year so far. Last year, it was tough for those guys to be confident in their team. Guys like Hayward, he's playing, what am I doing playing with this idiot and, Kyrie? Guys getting in my face because I pass the ball to Tatum and not him. Comes up to me.
Well, I think that in the NBA, the other issue that you're always coping with is ego. How many minutes am I getting? How many shots am I getting? Now, a guy like Brown, he got paid, so he doesn't have to worry for the rest of his life about money. Kemba Walker got paid, so whether he has 25 points a game or 20 points a game, I don't really think he cares because he's getting the $38 million. Now, if you're Tatum, you see, well, they already paid Walker and they paid Brown, so they're going to pay me. So they know that he can feel comfortable with that assurance that he's going to get paid. Like somehow living off $7 or $8 million a year would be a struggle for the rest of us.
But you notice the Celtics program, Ron, it's close to being perfect, their program. It's close to be, when you look at all the young guys that coming through and they're working hard, pushing the older guys, but it's really close to being a perfect program. When you look at guys like Edwards is going to be better. I think Waters eventually is going to be really good. You got Green now, and then you got all these guys. You got the stars. I mean, Tatum's becoming a star. Brown's becoming a star. You got Walker's a star. Hayward's been a star, and he's back to where you got a guy like Cantor who's going to be on the boards all year. Tice is getting better. You got Williams who's getting better.
Right.
That's the perfect program.
Right. When you can bring younger players in especially in complementary roles like Grant Williams. He's not playing big minutes, but he definitely has a feel for the game. You see that he knows how to set screens. He knows how to get body position to rebound. He can take charges. He just understands how to play, even though, he's not somebody who's going to jump through the roof and score 18 points a game.
But quickly you talk about the girls' high school team. No one thinks they're going to be good. They lost just about everybody from last year. The only one with experience is Mary Kate, who to me is going to be one of the best point guards in the league all around. But you got 10 or 11 other girls that are working extremely hard, that are talented.
Right. Well, that's why I think that there isn't, in my view, a big difference between the top 5 players and the next 5 players.
Right.
So if you're going to take the approach that I'm just going to develop this group of 5 and everybody else is going to languish on the bench, and I'm not saying that they're doing that, I think that will not work out.
No, but I was talking to Coach Hirschfeld today after practice, right? He was, he was there. He wasn't at practice. He can't be.
Yeah, sure.
But he opened the gym for us and stuff. But we were talking later, and I said to him, I said, the best thing you have going here? Every girl's going to be battling for playing time. They know if they come through and work hard, they're going to get playing time. That's the best feeling.
Right. We've between the two of us, we've coached practically all the girls on the team, so they have some ability. They're very athletic. Hopefully they'll, I would play with this particular group a running game because that fits their athleticism and limited size. So you cater to the strengths that you have. But I think it'll be a really fun season. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.